Welcome to the Norris Group Real Estate Podcast, a show committed to bringing you insights from thought leaders shaping the real estate industry. In each episode, we'll dive into conversations with industry experts and local insiders, all aimed at helping you thrive in an ever-changing real estate market, continuing the legacy that Bruce Norris created, sharing valuable knowledge, and empowering you on your real estate journey. Whether you're a seasoned pro or a newcomer, this is your go-to source for insider tips, market trends, and success strategies.
Welcome, everybody, to the Norris Group Real Estate Podcast. And this week, we're bringing you our second in our Tsunami series webinars. And this one's going to deal with AI infrastructure and how it's going to change the landscape of America and its real estate. So stay tuned and hope you enjoy. So I'm Joey Romero with the Norris Group. And this is Buddy Rushing with White Feather Investments and White Feather AI. And so this is our second webinar. There you go. This is our second webinar in our webinar series. We will have one more leading up to our Tsunami event. And this one's going to deal with AI infrastructure and everything that's coming. Throughout our country's history, we've had four really revolutionary infrastructure projects that have changed our country. The first one was the railroads. The second one was the interstates. Broadband got everybody easier access to things, and the real estate around those hubs became super popular and valuable. And the next one is exactly what we're going to talk about, is all the AI infrastructure that's coming. And so when you hear that AI infrastructure, like a lot of people maybe don't know, but it's everything that has to do with artificial intelligence and what makes it actually tick. So we're talking about compute, we're talking about the power that it takes, the energy, and we're talking about the chips. And so there's going to be some major construction that's going to kind of reshape the map of the United States, and that's what we're talking about today. And so with that being said, Buddy, take it away.
Okay, awesome. Can you hear me? Can everybody hear me? All good? Okay.
Yes.
All right, I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to dive into this really quickly. So everybody always asks, like, what is the key to making money in real estate? What's the key to being able to build generational wealth with real estate and so on? And the generalized, overpopularized term is location, right? And I will tell you that is true, but it's only part of the story. A much better, in my opinion, a much better way to look at investing is you want to invest in the location that is in the path of progress. So a lot of people, they mistake the idea of a location as, oh, it's on the beach, buy on the beach. So the location is by the beach, and that's a great location. Or this location is by a ski resort, and so that's a great look, right? That's what they think of when they think of location. And I would submit to you that that's the wrong way to think about it. What you want to think about is investing in a location that is directly in the path of progress. What does that mean? If you have a business that's going to go into a town and set up shop, like maybe it's the headquarters of Boeing or Delta or something like that, right? And or Amazon decides to put a headquarters there. You guys remember a few years ago whenever they were doing HQ2, and it's like New York City like turned the Empire State Building orange for a night to try to get their business. Why? Because when Amazon goes and puts an HQ2 somewhere, it brings infrastructure, it brings money, it brings tax dollars, it brings jobs. And with that brings an economic progress that rises up the people in the town. They make more money, they're able to afford food, they're able to afford more housing, right? They can afford cars and so on. So when you invest in a piece of real estate and it's in the path of progress, it's the definition of buying low and holding as it increases. A lot of people also think in terms of land, right? So I've heard it said before that, like, you take a city, right, and you draw out the roads that go out from that city, and you buy up land along those roads. And then as people move out to the city and they start building houses in the suburbs, your land becomes very, very valuable, right? So that's an idea of investing in the path of progress. So with that in mind, in my opinion, we have the greatest AI infrastructure or the greatest infrastructure opportunity in American history. And those that are investing in the path of progress are going to reap the rewards. And I'll take you from high level all the way down to the ground on this presentation. So this sounds like a silly or crazy things to say. What if you could see where trillions of dollars are going before the crowd? But it's literally true. It is literally trillions, and we're seeing it before the crowd. Okay. So like Joey mentioned, whenever the railroads were put in, it changed the face of, you could make a claim that the railroad infrastructure project was the single most defining technology and effort that turned America into a superpower. It connected coast to coast. It allowed them to travel through the wilds. It allowed them to move goods and services and everything like that and explore the vast resources of America. So there's actually great documentaries on this where you can watch that talk about how the railroad system itself and then later the interstate system turned the United States of America into the world superpower that it is. But where did all the people that created generational wealth, other than the Carnegies that were making the steel and the railroad tycoons, which were, 1 to 2 to 3 people, who made all the money? It was the people that owned the land next to where the railroads were going, because those railroads brought in goods and people and infrastructure. And so the people that owned the land are the ones that became generationally wealthy, right? And that's the idea here. Whoever owns the land near the infrastructure captures the wealth. It's a historical pattern that we see repeating it, and we're already doing this. Now, we're not buying land, we're buying properties, and we're renovating them, and we're renting them out, and we're holding on to them. And that's what the Hyperion campaign is, okay? So the purpose of the call today is to take you through, at a high level, where we see this going, and then give you kind of a little inside scoop into what it is that we're doing. And when June 13th comes around, we're going to dive deep into it. And honestly, I'm considering, haven't decided yet, because it is a very, very valuable thing that we've created. We created the blueprint for this. The blueprint for Hyperion is done. It's AI generated, it's created, and we now have $5 million worth of real estate, and it's the best real estate that we've ever purchased. The blueprint is already created, and I am considering making it available to people that show up on June 13th so that they can learn how to create that blueprint and then go into whatever market they want to and recreate the success on their own. Okay. First, let's do a little bit of education on what the actual AI infrastructure stack looks like. Okay. So 30,000 foot view, you have the United States and you have China. Those are the two major power players in the AI arms race. Okay. The whole reason that this matters, that there's a national security issue, is because the first country that reaches, or the first entity that reaches AGI, artificial general intelligence, will have the ability to cure cancer, will have the ability to extend life, will have the ability to create massive amounts of abundance in terms of 3D printing and robotics and space travel, mining asteroids. Like with AGI, all things become possible. And the first country that reaches that will be ahead of everybody else for the rest of time. Because when an artificial intelligence becomes AGI level, it's able to train itself. It's called recursive self-improvement. When it's able to train itself, it can now move faster than any human can possibly do, which means no one will ever catch up to it. So the country that reaches there first is the country that will always be on top. Okay? And that's something that's, again, that's a belief of mine, but it's not just my belief. This is from President Trump all the way to the frontier labs and the hyperscalers. So this is societally important, which is why the Trump administration has said that beating China to AGI is a national security imperative. Okay, so it has the heaviest top cover that you can ever possibly imagine. So why do we care? We care because, like, if you were to invest, for instance, in nuclear generation technology or in a new type of aircraft, you would run into huge legal hurdles. The FAA, is going to stop you from flying for like 10 years. right? The nuclear, proliferation administration and all that, they're going to stop you from being able to build these things, right? We would have had flying cars a decade ago if it weren't for the legal and safety hurdles that they have to go over in order to make them fly. The technology has existed, but because the FAA, their job is to keep any flying thing safe, and they have a very, very high bar for what they consider safe, which is a good thing. It's the technology is stymied by the actual legal hurdles they have to follow. Does that make sense? When it comes to AI and AI infrastructure, because you have a presidential administrative top-down imperative that claims national security, all the legal hurdles are mitigated like crazy. Okay, so that's really important to understand from the highest possible level. But here's how the stack looks. This is what the foundation models are typically what we look. This is a screenshot of ChatGPT. Everybody here should be familiar with ChatGPT. That's what we see on our phones and on our laptops, and it's what we identify as AI. Okay, that's the very top layer of, right, it's called a user interface. That's the very top layer of AI. Okay, underneath that is what's called an inference layer. I'm not going to get too nerdy on this, but basically it's essentially the computational power that powers, like, think of it like the brain power that powers your large language model.
That's the GPU.
Yeah. Underneath that is the training clusters that hold the GPUs, the graphics processing unit. That is the reason that NVIDIA is the most valuable company in the world history. In the world, yeah. And it's because these H100s, which is their flagship one, they now have H200 and so on. These are your graphics processing units, your GPUs. Those GPUs are what produce the computing power at the inference layer to power the large language model, okay? All right, that's nerdy enough. Let's move on. The really sexy part is this bottom row. Underneath, so GPUs have to have a home, right? Each of these GPUs, by the way, is $30,000. Costs $30,000 for one GPU, one H100. Okay, so you're talking about massive amounts of money that's having to go into these. But here's where it gets
they can't sell them fast enough. Like they
can't sell them fast enough. Can't sell them fast enough. If you want to have a conversation after I finish my presentation about GPUs and the strategic imperative, or the strategic importance of Taiwan and of the TSMC and then the Terafab in Austin that Elon's building, that's a fascinating conversation. And also, not for nothing, the Terafab where he's building it in Austin, what do you think is going to happen to real estate around where he builds the Terafab? Because that's a $150 billion project, right? These things are popping up everywhere. So let me shift next, though, and I'm going to slow down a little bit because this is where it gets really, really important to you guys. And this is what we're already doing. And this is the gold mine. And Joey, stop me if I give too much away. I have a really big problem with just being an open book. And Joey's like, you got to save stuff for the event. And
I'll just start muting you.
Yeah, just be like, buddy, we're going to cover that at the event. Okay. The GPUs that power the compute that powers the foundation models, they have to live somewhere. They have to have a home. That home is in massive physical buildings called data centers. Okay. Now these range anywhere from 50,000 square feet to over 5 million square feet. Project Prometheus, the Prometheus data center, the Hyperion data center, and they're all over. I'll go over that in a minute. But the data centers are these massive multi-deca-billion-dollar infrastructure projects that house these GPUs. What's the problem with data centers? Or rather, what's one of the considerations, major considerations for data centers? Joey, you can answer this question.
Environmental? The
okay,
water?
But what, no, I mean, yeah.
The water?
So the water, they need water because these things run super, super, super hot.
Because of the enormous power that they drain.
That's right. They pull power, and then compute actually creates a physical heat signature that gets really, really high. And so they use air and water to cool these things so that they don't melt. So they require lots of water and, even more importantly, lots of power, massive amounts of power. And so what you're finding is when these data centers go in next to a city, like in Northern Virginia, and they plug into the local power grid, everybody hates them because they drain all the power and then your utility bills go up, and there's all kinds of lessons learned from that. So the new generation data centers are actually building their own independent power structures, like the Colossus in Memphis. Elon built 2 major power plants just to feed that data center. The same thing's happening with Hyperion in Northeast Louisiana. They're building these massive natural gas power plants. Well, what is a power plant? It's an infrastructure project, which requires people to build it, which requires, them leasing land, paying taxes, employing, so on and so on. Also, right around that, and this is where I care the most about this. Now that I understand these first 5 layers, what I really care about is the land and the real estate around where they're building these things. That's where we win. So here's the scale of this thing. Okay. I want to put this in perspective for you. In 2026, there is, and this number actually is outdated as of today, there's over $700 billion planned for AI infrastructure development, physical infrastructure development in the United States of America in 2026 alone. I want to put this in perspective. The defense budget of the United States military, which is the most powerful military in the history of the world by an order of magnitude. When you think in terms of destructive capability, the United States military is more powerful than the next 10 militaries combined. All you have to do is look up an infographic on this. It's hilarious, right? We have complete and utter dominance of the seas, right? And that defense budget costs around $850 billion to create that apparatus per year. We are on track by the end of this year to reach $1 trillion in AI infrastructure spending alone, which will exceed the national defense budget. Another perspective for you. The U.S. interstate system, when it was executed, was the largest infrastructure project in the history of the world. Okay, it cost $500 billion, and it took 35 years to get there. Okay, $500 billion, 35 years, biggest infrastructure project in the history of America.
And it's still broken.
And in 1 year, we are spending more. By the way, that's $500 billion in today's dollars. $500 billion in today's dollars. So adjusted for inflation. There is more money being poured into AI infrastructure in the United States of America in 2026 than there was in 35 years of the largest infrastructure project in American history. I want that to sink in for a second, because I know there's a lot of stuff that's being said right now, and a lot of stuff. There's 90 people on this call right now, 90 pairs of eyes and 90 pairs of ears that are listening to this. Most people, especially when they're in the world of real estate, they look back and say, man, if I'd only known in 2008, right? If I'd only known that we were about to go on a 15-year run, if I'd only known in 2018 that we were about to see real estate prices double in certain metros in America in 2 years.
Buddy, you forget a lot of the people on the call did follow Bruce. So
Yeah,
some of them did know.
Fair
Some
enough,
of them
right?
did know.
Some of you guys did know, and some of you guys took action on it, and your legacy has thanked you for it, right? Your life and right? And others heard Bruce say those things and didn't take action on it. And you look back and you say, what I'm trying to tell you right now, and by the way, my opinion is fully endorsed by Bruce on AI. Fully endorsed. I've talked to him about it, and he's like, buddy, yes, that makes perfect sense, right? And Sharon Lechter, also, who wrote Rich Dad Poor Dad, has also, I sat across from her table at Cherry Creek Lodge, her ranch, and talked into the wee hours of the night about the Hyperion campaign. And she was like, that's the best strategy that I have seen in real estate in decades. And so I look at this and I say, okay, what I'm trying to tell you is just the opportunity that exists right now. By 2030, Citigroup projects almost $3 trillion in data center spend. So it's 2026 right now, which means that it's only ramping up in the years to come. So real estate near the physical infrastructure, here's the interesting part about this. They're not building data centers in downtown San Francisco. They're building data centers in rural Utah, in rural Oklahoma,
Maybe
in Northeast Louisiana, right? They're doing it in what's called the digital corridor, which is that Midwest area where you've got high water tables, cheap land, friendly local governments, and abundant natural gas. So that's where they're putting, and that's where your average home value is half the national average. So take a look at this heat spot. And again, I know that we're only 23 minutes in. We're doing pretty good. We're gonna have plenty of time for questions because I don't want to give you guys too much of this because I'm gonna do an entire presentation on exactly how we built the Hyperion campaign, how we built the command center and the dashboard, and how we've purchased properties and what those properties are doing. But this is not new. So tier one is basically, and by the way, I worked with Claude and Maverick to create this, right? It took me like about 6 minutes, I think, to create this entire presentation. And it
Well, I
was just
spent
speaking.
7 minutes and get us a better map.
Oh, I love this map. Are you kidding me? I love this map. I said focus on the areas. And so anyway, so tier one is where you've got basically like, this is the corridor here in Northeast Virginia, where it's like there's more data that runs through there than any corridor in the world. You've got the Prometheus project, right? You've got the TerraFab and various other data centers that are in Texas. I see 140 projects. In Atlanta, they've got a huge amount. And then you've got tier two, which is where they're just breaking ground or they've just announced that they're going to. And that is, you've got some in North Carolina, here, Utah, Ohio, and then the biggest one for us is the data center in Louisiana. Okay. I say this to say there are vast amounts of areas in the country where you're going to see this play out over and over and over again. And the people that go in there and buy the real estate around these tier two markets are people that are going to experience 10 to 50% increases in appreciation, in rent increases, and so on. Okay. And this is how I know. So this was a thesis. And again, I won't go too much into this, but I will hit briefly. The reason that this a year ago was just a thesis. Now it's reality. It's fact. I own personally one of the properties. I've helped White Feather members buy another 21. We're in escrow on, half a dozen more. We've got offers out. We're looking, our next phase for the next 12 months is to buy 100 more of these houses. By the way, if you guys don't know, a 1% house is kind of a rule of thumb in rental real estate, right? If you can buy a house and it can rent for 1% of the purchase price per month, so you buy a $200,000 house, it should be able to rent for $2,000 a month or more. $400,000 house, $4,000 a month or more. If you can get a 1% house, then typically they cash flow really well. It's a general rule of thumb. We have purchased off of the MLS using bank financing 22 properties in Monroe, Rayville, and surrounding areas around that Hyperion data center. There's not a single house that we have not purchased. There's not a single house that we've purchased that is not a 1% property. Okay, put another way, every single house that we bought is a 1% property plus. That is unheard of. And we're not buying in C-class neighborhoods. We're buying in B-class neighborhoods. We have A-class houses that are 3 years old. New construction, A-class houses 3 years old that are 1%ers. And the reason is because you have this massive influx of 8,000 workers. You have this massive influx of not just the Hyperion data center, but AWS, Blackbox, which is doing all the fiber. You've got, a lot of infrastructure projects that come along with the metadata center as well. And all that's flooding into this area. And so that's causing rent prices to go up. It's causing home prices to go up and so on. So what we did was we saw a year ago that they were starting to move dirt and break ground on this Hyperion data center in Northeast Louisiana. We knew that we did AI analysis, which that created our blueprint, where we said, all right, we know that Louisiana is a very business-friendly state. We know it has a low tax base. We know that the land is inexpensive. We know houses are inexpensive. And we know that the area of Northeast Louisiana has never seen a $30 billion infrastructure project. So we think that it's going to create a massive path of progress play. And so we went in and started buying. We built our team on the ground there. And we have since then, I'll tell you, we have since then acquired 22 properties. And again, I'll talk a little bit more about that. And we're on track to buy 100 more. So here's your little checklist, right? This is very high level. And, you can use this. You can feel free to take this presentation and go forth and do great things with it, right? Because there's more than enough for everybody. Even if you guys took this exact model and went and executed it, there's more than enough opportunity for everybody on this call times a factor of 10. So first is you look for the announcement. A hyperscaler. So when I say hyperscaler, I mean Meta, I mean Google, Microsoft, OpenAI, those kinds of things, right? XAI, those are hyperscalers. Any type of hyperscaler or government infrastructure project over $1 billion, right? That's what I would say. Don't go anything under $1 billion. Why? Because there's too many to choose from at 10 or 50 or 100 billion, right? Like these, if Amazon, Meta, Microsoft, or Google break ground, that's when you pay attention. Take a look at the grids, right? If they require grid upgrades, substations, natural gas plants, or nuclear restarts, then you can bet that not only will it be a long construction project to put the data center in, but they then have to build the power infrastructure. Power is the innermost loop that drives progress in a town. And so when they create massive power infrastructure, and they have a huge infrastructure project, they rebuild roads, their tax dollars pour into the local economy, the local businesses boom, you have to build more houses, more people flood in, right? And so that's a path of progress play. Then you have this like little bump, right? So it typically lasts anywhere between 3 and 5 years of the horizontal and vertical construction where they have to bring in thousands of new workers, and those workers have to live there while they build the data center. That creates a boom, right? And that's what we're in right now. We're in the leading edge. We're about a year into the boom, and that's why we have a waiting list of renters. Like we literally, we buy a house, we renovate it, we have a waiting list of renters wanting to move in before we're even able to finish it. Okay, and that's because they bring in like the major prime contractors that are building this in Northeast Louisiana. It's Turner, DPR, and Mortensen. They bring in all of these workers, and they have one person that's in charge of finding them housing. And I've met with all three prime contractors and the person that's in charge of housing. It's an ancillary job for them that they don't get paid for, that they are overwhelmed and they're literally begging for help. And so you've got this 2 to 5 year workforce gap where they need housing and they need it right now. And even after the vertical construction's done and a lot of those workers leave, the baseline of what that town is at is much higher than what it was before they came. Okay. And here is the blueprint, right? So we're getting close to the end here. This is the blueprint that we did. We literally, I mean, these are real deals that we did. You can look it up, right? These are ones we have in Escrow, Watson, and Whitney, and Mohawk, and so on. These are other ones that we actually have that are rented. 2004 Carter Street, if you wanted to look that one up in West Monroe, you'll look up the owner. That's an LLC called Hyperion Carter LLC, and that's mine. I bought it for $170,000. I put around $55,000 into it. The ARV was 283. I did a cash out refinance, and so I owe 212 on it. It's worth 285, and I have about 35 grand of total capital that I have still invested in it. And it's rented out for $2,600 a month. So my cash on cash return is like 17%. These are real deals that we're doing in this area.
Buddy, separate from the strategy. So the strategy is the blueprint. That's what you're considering and just, giving away. But this is an actual screenshot of your dashboard, right?
Yeah.
And this is something that we're actually going to do a live demonstration on how they can build their own, correct? On June 13th?
Yeah, actually, and I'm happy to. We're doing good on time. So if you wanted to after this presentation, I'm happy to share my screen and show you the actual live dashboard that we have that was built by members of our team over a weekend. And now we have the blueprint for not just building the dashboard and all that stuff, but the blueprint for actually going into an area and having the AI, the specially trained AI, just run, like take all the lessons learned from this year-long campaign we've done and what worked, what didn't, what expectations were met and exceeded, and then layer that on a particular area and identify the ideal buy box, identify the area, and then start finding actual addresses itself. I mean, for those of you that come on June 13th, you're going to see something you've never seen before. And those of you that don't, I I can't help you if you're not in the room. So anyway, okay, and then there's it. Yeah, this is it. This is just the June 13th, the Tsunami event. Try everything that you can to make it. Depending on how many people are actually at the event, if there's if there's time, I will do like workshops. One of the things that we're talking about potentially doing, if we have the ability to, is workshops where I would recommend everybody bring your laptop with you. attend the event. It's a one-day event. Bring your laptop with you. I'll show you how to have it actively take notes and then create your agent for you. But then if we have time, we're actually going to do a workshop where we'll show you how to recreate the Hyperion campaign, and answer any kind of questions you guys have.
The industry is changing faster than ever, and the investors who learn AI today will have a massive advantage tomorrow. That's why the Norris Group and White Feather AI created Tsunami, the Real Estate AI Summit, June 13th in Ontario, California. This isn't another generic AI seminar. You'll get live demos, real deal analysis, and practical AI workflows you can use in your business. Investors, realtors, and operators, this one is built for you. Tickets are $5.95, but use the code TUNAMI, that's TWONAMI, to get $200 off. Grab your spot at thenorrisgroup.com. Hope to see you there.
For more information on hard money loans, trust deed investing, and upcoming events with the Norris Group, check out thenorrisgroup.com. For more information on passive investing through the DBL Capital Real Estate Investment Fund, please visit dblcapital.com.
The Norris Group originates and services loans in California and Florida under the California DRE license 01219911, Florida Mortgage Lender license 1577, and NMLS license 1623669. For more information on hard money lending, go to thenorrisgroup.com and click the hard money